Fu means? Welcome to the Kung Fu Time. My name is Marco Seski and I will answer this question. Okay, maybe Kung Fu doesn't mean what you think it does. Kung Fu is the term or expression that we use to describe all the Chinese martial arts. However, the expression itself doesn't mean martial arts. It has another meaning that we will explore in this video. The Chinese expression or term for martial arts is Wushu. Wu literally means martial and Shu technique. So, if Shu means technique, why do we say art? Here, the word art is not about being beautiful or something close to this. This is nothing but a common view of the meaning of the word art, but it has several others. Art is defined by having a craft or a skill. So, when the Chinese are talking about Wushu, they are saying that it is a martial skill or a martial craft. Of course, that doesn't mean that it can't be sublime or beautiful, because it is. Although the today expression for martial arts in China is Wushu, along their history it has other terms, other expression that shares the same meaning. I can recall now terms like Wushu, Chuanfa, Shoupu, Wu Wu, and many others. So, from here we can have two questions. First, why do we use Kung Fu as a way to say Chinese martial arts? And second, what does Kung Fu means? Well, Kung Fu is built up two words. Kung is merit, achievement, workmanship, or a supreme skill in a craft. And Fu is the term for man. And when we talk about man, we are talking or we are saying, referring to the human being. So when we get these two words together and build up the expression Kung Fu, we are talking about somebody who developed through time and effort a supreme skill in a craft. So the expression Kung Fu is about mastering something. So a painter can have Kung Fu, a cooker can have Kung Fu, a soccer player, a basketball player, everybody can have Kung Fu if they have enough time and effort for this. This leads us to another question. So what does mastery means? Well, there are several definitions for that around the world, and especially in China. Some will define it as the Confucian concept for the perfect gentleman, but I personally like to define Kung as a three-concept definition. Kung Fu or Kung, somebody who has Kung, he has in three levels. The first level is about the physical skill or the physical concept. The second one is about the mental, and the third is about the emotional. So mastering these three concepts can develop someone to have an excellent or a great or a high Kung Fu. So this also means that you can have lower levels of Kung Fu. If you have one or another, for example, if you have only the physical and emotional but not the mental, or you have only physical, so there are several levels of Kung Fu. A person who has a high level with three together is a really rare one those days. A great example that I use, including with my students, is a great or a very good driver, a very skillful driver. Somebody who may have or probably have the physical and mental mastery of the skill of driving. But why he doesn't have the high level of Kung Fu in driving? Because he's emotional. It doesn't pair up with the other ones. So let's give you a hypothetical example. Somebody who's a really good driver, he's at the street and an old man or an old lady starts to cross the road. But she crosses in a really slow way. What does he do? He waits patiently because she has for her time to cross. No, he bursts out. He begins to yell, to curse. He doesn't want to wait. He doesn't have the emotional skill to keep waiting or to know what his place in that scene is. So he's a guy that although he developed a high level of Kung in physical and mental, he has a lower level in the emotional one. So why do we say Kung Fu as a way to speak about martial arts and not another terms as Wushu, Fa, or something like that, another term like that? Well, the main culprit for this is none less than Bruce Lee. He is the person responsible, or the mainly responsible guy, for popularizing the term Kung Fu as Chinese martial arts. It's so popular right now that the whole world uses it, including China. So if you go to China and ask or say that you want to practice Kung Fu, they will know what you're talking about. But how does Kung Fu is linked to Chinese martial arts, actually to martial arts in general in China? Well, that's a question that I made several times. I researched online, asked masters, practitioners, and there was always one answer that they gave me. It may be, actually it's pretty much a myth, but it's a nice one to tell you. They say that when the first Chinese sailors arrived at the Americans' harbors, and if you have been to a harbor, you know the environment of it. When the fights burst out, and the Americans began to notice those guys fighting in a totally different way, they were curious to what they are doing, what those Chinese men are doing. So they went to ask it. Okay guys, let me ask, what you're doing? They wanted to know which martial arts was that, what's the name? The Chinese guy, probably because of the language barrier, they understood that the Americans were asking how you are doing this and not what you are doing. So the answer was Kung Fu. They were saying that they developed those skills, or those fighting skills, through time and effort, or effort for a long time. So they trained it, they practiced a lot. That's why they were so good at fighting. Of course, this story probably isn't real. We will get to it, to what the real one really is. But first, we have to know how Kung Fu became popularized inside the martial arts circles or inside the martial arts families. Well, the truth, we don't know. We don't know how it spread among martial arts, especially when we are talking about places like Guangzhou or Fujian. That's where the expression was popular back then. So, we don't know how an expression to say that somebody has a good skill in something became known as a synonym of knowing martial arts or being a martial art. It must have been like an organic thing. Like imagine a teacher practicing all those aspects of martial arts, of a Chinese martial arts. The student watching, and he went to the teacher and asked, "Okay, Sifu, how do you practice? How do you get so good at this? How are you so good at the style of martial arts?" And the teacher answers, "Well, Kung Fu." What the teacher means that the student, to be so good, you have to spend a lot of time and effort to develop your craftsmanship. So that's probably how the term Kung Fu became associated with martial arts, like meaning martial arts. If you think about this kind of talking in several generations, it's really easy to see how, okay, you have to practice a lot, or you have to practice martial arts. You have to do Kung Fu to be this good. But how does this expression enter this environment in the first place? Well, the oldest records of Kung Fu are associated with the art of Qigong. Qigong is the internal work, or the work that met a special way to breathe, to develop your internal power. And if you know something about martial arts or about Qigong, you know that Qigong is a Taoist practice, and the Chinese martial arts are heavily influenced by the Taoism. If you didn't know that, well, that's a good place to start knowing. So maybe this is how Kung Fu and martial arts became associated, probably through the practice of Qigong. It's important to know that Kung Fu wasn't an expression known through all the China. It was mainly known in southeast of China, as I said already, in Fujian and Guangzhou. And with the Chinese immigration, probably they share this term, this expression, all around the world. We can count like Chinese immigration to America, to Europe, to Brazil, to Argentina, to Chile, to everywhere. So here comes another question. How Bruce Lee knew this expression and how he made it so popular? Okay, I know it was two questions, not one. Well, it looks like Ben Zimmer has a good answer to it. First of all, Bruce Lee came from a Cantonese family, so the expression must have been familiar to him. But if we really want to understand how it begins, we have to look not to China, but to the North California in the late 50s. In this location, some practitioners call their martial arts, their Chinese martial arts, as Kung Fu. Some of them call their style Xiu Lun Kung Fu, or that's an expression in Cantonese, because in Mandarin it's Shaolin Kung Fu, or the craftsmanship or the mastery of Shaolin in English. So there was one guy named Qin Wang that immigrated to USA during the Second World War. He was responsible to establish the King Mon Club, and he had a student named James In Lee. He was probably the best known proponent of Kung Fu in the state, Xiulin Kung Fu. Lee wrote several books, and since the first one, he chose to write the word Kung Fu as a way to say Chinese martial arts, and wrote it with the K instead of the G that would be the standard transliteration from the Cantonese to English, to the Roman alphabet. The first one was named Fighting Arts of the Orient, Karate and Kung Fu, and was published in 1958. The second one, called Chinese Karate Kung Fu Original Siulun System, was published in 1961. And in 1962, at 42 years old, he received the visit of a 22 years old Bruce Lee. The young Bruce Lee was really impressed with James Lee. Included his books. So in this visit, he asked the James why he chose Kung Fu as a way to talk about Chinese martial arts, and why he chose to write it with the K instead of the G. The answer was that since the Americans didn't know how to transliterate the Cantonese language to English, the K, that it would be the most familiar sound, would be a lot more profitable. And now we know that he was right. So when Bruce Lee achieved fame through the character of Kato from the show The Green Hornet, he introduced the expression Kung Fu as a Chinese martial arts to the entire world. Bruce Lee, in shows, articles, interviews and books, he chose to write the word Kung Fu with the G, that would be the correct transliteration from Cantonese. But the word, the Kung Fu with K, it was already so popular that it became known all around the globe as that, like that. And as he kept using Kung Fu as a way to talk about Chinese martial arts, the word became really popular. It spread around all the four corners of our world. And that's why, until this day, you know Kung Fu as Chinese martial arts instead of any other term like Wushu or anything else. Well, I hope you guys liked this video, the meaning of the expression Kung Fu, where does it came from, how it became known as Chinese martial arts. So please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button and write down in the comment section what you want to see in the next videos. So, thank you very much, see you next time. 谢谢。